Regular school. Oh, yeah.
I'd like to call the Montague Board of Education meeting to order at 5 p.m. January 8th, 2021. Please stand for the flag salute.
To the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Montague School District is to provide the best educational experience and opportunities resources allow in order to realize the potential of every child. In accordance with the New Jersey Sunshine Law, a legal notice of this meeting has been posted on the official bulletin board at the school and advertised in the New Jersey Herald and the Sunday New Jersey Herald. I shall announce the official results of the annual school election. Montague Township Board of Education members vote for 2 3-year terms. The candidates: Barbara Holstein with 1,153 votes. Lauren Zeitno, 604 votes. Denise Bogo, 1,260 votes. Charles Huber, 395. And the write-in were 22. I shall administer the oath of office to the newly elected board members. Denise Bogo, Barbara Holstein. I state your name.
Denise Bogle, do solemnly swear
Or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
You would like to read at the same time as you?
okay.
I,
I,
Barbara
Denise
Holstein,
Bogle, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the
the
Constitution
Constitution of New
of the State of New Jersey,
and I
and
will
I will
bear
bear
faith
true faith
and
and
allegiance
the same
to the governments established in the United States and this state,
under the
authority
authority
of the people, so help me God.
I state
I, Denise Bogle, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education,
And
and I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 1941, nor disqualified due to conviction of crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
congratulations. And you just sign your oath of office. Thank you. I shall conduct the roll call now. Denise Bogle. Here. Dale Bauer.
Present.
Paul Brisman.
Here.
Jennifer Connick. Here. Danielle Christmas. Here. Barbara Holstein.
Here.
Mr. Plotkin.
Here.
Others present, Mr. Capone, and myself, Oleana Reynolds. And members of the public. I'd like to entertain nominations for president.
I nominate myself, Mike Fonzie.
I second. My name is Barbara Holstein.
I'll second. Before you call the roll, I'd like an opportunity to speak just for a moment, discussion. So, I recognize that the student board members, year before they were grade, just like when I came on the board, there were 3 people that had replaced other people, and then I came on with somebody else who replaced somebody else. When I came on, there was, I think, 3 different lawsuits in 4 different forums. Within 90 days after attending several of the court conferences, and based upon my professional knowledge, although not licensed in New York and never advocated as an attorney for the board, I was able to explain things in a way that was able to enable the board to resolve that litigation, saving probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Since about a year and a half later, after having attended the initial orientation and 1 session of the school board convention, taking the second orientation, the board president resigned, and I volunteered and was ultimately elected to that position. I've been board president for 3.5 years. During that time, the finances of the district have changed dramatically. We have taken steps to do our best to protect the students, staff, administration, and as another taxpayer who does not have children in the district, taxpayer. For the last year, I've taken great pains to try to assure that none of the board members put the board in a position that would be sued for ethical or any other violations. All the litigation that we were involved in was either commenced by a parent who was not happy with the determination that was made by the administration, or by another district who sued us. In one instance, litigation was commenced because, candidly, we were being treated and mistreated by another district. Essentially, I throw my name out there because I'm the only person sitting at this table, I believe, who has the knowledge and wherewithal to try to prevent those ethical violations from happening. Candidly, I defy any person on the board to identify a time and someone who, I can agree with many of the board members at various times. There was nobody who was not given an opportunity to fall and fairly heard. There was nobody whose idea was not ultimately presented for consideration by the board. There were determinations that were made that I disagree with. There were many that I agree with. Again, my concern is that the matter of the board move forward ethically, legally, and properly. I think I can get that done. Whether the votes are something that I would count or not. As board president, my vote wouldn't count any more than any other person's. It takes 4 people to pass anything on the board. Because of my professional experience and basically based on the last 3.5 years as board president, I know how to run a meeting. Just figured I'd throw that out.
Considering I was the other nomination to be spent here, I'll go ahead and make a brief statement. I also believe that I have the capability of running this board and accepting the nomination that we made. I have experience both in the classroom, as a parent, and as a taxpayer. And I always held the best interest of the taxpayers in the school district equally with the students' needs in the school district. I do not think I need to go into the details of why this election resulted with the numbers that it did. It's been well documented that this board has not had a great relationship with the community. We've had significant issues with parents, students, and other school districts. We are still facing lawsuits, and we wastefully spent $40,000 on a feasibility study.
when I decided to run for the board, I did so because of the decisions that were being made. So I thank you again for the nomination, Denise, and I'd like to go ahead and see how this comes out. Thank you.
Hearing no other nominations, I would entertain the motion to close nomination for board president.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
So since Mr. Flosky was nominated first, we're gonna go ahead with Ms. Vogel first. Okay, roll call. Ms. Vogel,
I'm sorry.
I said since Mr. Flosky was nominated first, we're gonna go for voting for him.
Oh, okay.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
If you just go around and ask them who they vote for. It'll come to hand.
I think we should do it the proper way.
And again, it's the proper way. To identify who you're voting for, that's what we do.
We did that last year. That way.
Okay. So I'm just gonna call your name and just state who you're voting for as president. Ms. Vogel, Barbara Holstein, Mr. Baumann,
Barbara Holstein.
Mr. Brislin,
Abstain.
Ms. Karamucci,
Mr. Flosky.
Ms. Chrisman, Barbara Holstein, Ms. Holstein,
I'll vote for myself. Thank you. Barbara Holstein.
Mr. Flosky.
Myself. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your votes, and we'll proceed with the entertaining nominations for first vice president. Nominations for first vice president is open.
I'd like to nominate Denise Vogel.
I'll second that.
And it says the secretary shall conduct the roll call, please.
And you have to ask for additional nominations and close the nominations first.
Pardon me, thank you, Mr. Flosky. Would there be any additional nominations for first vice president?
Yes.
Is there any additional nominations? I don't see any additional nominations for vice president.
I'll move to close the nominations.
I'll second.
Nominations are closed. Would you like to do roll call, Secretary?
Ms. Vogel,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Brislin,
Abstain.
Ms. Karamucci,
No.
Ms. Chrisman, yes. Ms. Holstein,
Yes.
Flosky,
I know, I heard, I'm listening, I'm trying to listen. I'm sorry, I missed Ms. Christmas.
yes.
I'll abstain. Congratulations.
Thank you.
First vice president. So we have several motions that we need to go through here. So we'll start with A1. Don't we need to change the seats? Again? Denise, would you like to move over here with this person? Switch places?
Actually, Mr. Fallon.
Everybody has to be
moved.
moved.
Sorry, go.
That's fine.
And how we've done it in the past. There's 11 on
You don't know how we're getting on.
Yeah, sounds exactly what the president likes.
I'm over there. That work.
Yes.
Sorry, you getting that.
Everybody that's situated. So first item on the agenda tonight is A1. Be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Adelina Redovic, Board Secretary, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I question the term length of the board.
Means until December 31st, 2021.
So you supposed to, like, as far as your question goes, what would you like to read it, for it to read?
To the current contract. They were just awarded contracts. So what's the length of the contract?
There's no contract for the secretary of the board.
Wasn't it done in June?
It's not part of.
Can you use your
it's not a
microphone so that
contractual
you can-
position.
I'm sorry.
Denise?
It's not a contractual position. The secretary of the board is an appointed position that the board nominates and appoints.
Oh, okay.
Her contract is her contract, that's a separate employment arrangement. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Why would it not read through June 30th? June 30th, 2021.
Because the appointments are for the life of the board. This is a new board, so these are the appointments that you make for this year,
Great,
for
thank
the
you.
year of 2021.
Because, for example, if I get voted off on November of this year, my term will be up December 31st, 2021, not November of 2021.
No, yes, that's understood, Mr.
So,
Fox.
well then, so this board, which I'm a member of, will be this board until December 31st, 2021. That's why it's elected board. I'm just,
Right,
that's the
Thank you.
any other discussion? Roll call.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
82. Be it resolved that the Montague Board of Education appoints Erkin Gumuskin, School Business Administrator, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Under discussion, I may be wrong, but didn't we approve contract in June for Eric?
Again, that was an employment contract, not necessarily the school business administrator.
Okay, that's fine.
And candidly, it was a longer term and largely to have it mirror other contracts in the district.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
A3, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints School Business Administrator Erkin Gumuskin to be designated as the Investment Officer of Records, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. A4, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Denise Vogel as the alternate board secretary in the absence of the board secretary for emergency purposes, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
I don't think that's how it reads. That's not how it reads.
There's a blank there.
There's a blank there, correct?
Right.
That's how you read it, it's a blank. And you need a nomination.
There is no nomination required here. It's the board from
You
the-
have
You
to
have
vote.
to ask for a nomination for the person to be the alternate board secretary. You confirm that the nomination is secondary. If there's more than one, just like the board president and vice president, you basically have to vote. And then if there isn't, if there's only one nominee, then you vote yes or no. So, for example.
Okay,
exactly like our
Mr.
president.
Flosky, thank you for the advice. I will move for a nomination, please.
Well, I assume you nominated Ms. Vogel.
Well, wait, you have to read it first, and then you need a motion and a second, and then we can do a nomination.
I will read it again blank, and then we'll move for nomination. A4, be it resolved, the Montague Township Board of Education appoint blank as the alternate board secretary in the absence of the board secretary for emergency purposes, whose terms of office shall coincide with the life of the board. We'll call for nominations for alternate board secretary this time.
Okay, so first I'll move item 8.
Yes, I'll second it.
Now you vote. I'm sorry, it's just.
Well, and just in all fairness, the agenda was typed up with the nominations and everything in place. This does not even notify nominations, and I did not hear from Mr. Capone or anyone else from the board from the time I was elected until we sat down here tonight. So maybe a little bit of review would have been appropriate from the previous board president, recognition from the superintendent prior to the moment tonight. So I will, ask for your indulgence as we move through the process, and it's a learning process for all of us.
And I understand that. I'm not trying to be disruptive. I am trying to make sure it's done correctly. Number one. Number two, had I known that, basically there was a fait accompli before I put my name in for nomination, then I would have been sure to have spoken to you about how this worked, since I would have known at that point that it was very likely you would have been elected. 3, had you contacted me to ask, hey, how does this work? I would have happily discussed it with you. But
Mr. Flosky, we
you're
didn't know
actually
who was going
sworn
to be
in and you're
elected.
not a board member.
It's all right, thank you very much. So we've moved A4 with a first and a second. The first was Mr. Flosky, and the second was Ms. Caramucci, correct?
Yes.
Are we now open for nominations?
Vote yes.
I'd like to open the floor for nominations, please, for alternate board secretary.
Nominate Mr. Vogel.
Are there any other nominations for alternate board secretary?
Can I ask a question? What do we typically do for the alternate? I thought it was like the vice president was.
No, last year I asked
No,
her
it
if
was
she would
me.
do it,
So
and
when-
she said yes, so we
So when
nominated
people,
her.
when the secretary wasn't present, I had to take notes and report it back, and so that's how you got your minutes and stuff.
It could be anything. So right now, the nomination is Denise. And I heard from others who don't want to close nominations.
I just asked if there were any other nominations. Seeing that there's no other nominations, we'll move to do a roll call, please.
Ms. Vogel?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane?
Yes.
Ms. Caramucci?
Yes.
Ms. Prisman? Yes. Ms. Holtzman?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
I think I should say thank you. You're welcome. All right, we'll move to A5. Be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Eric Gamutin to the designated as a district's right to know officer whose term of life shall coincide with the life of the board.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please, or discussion, excuse me. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris,
Yes.
Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
A6, be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Eric Muskin to be designated the district's purchasing agent, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Wait, who's second, I'm sorry?
Bill can. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
Move to A7. Be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Eric Muskin to be designated the district's integrated pest control management coordinator, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
Motion.
Second. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to roll call, please.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
Can I just so you know, because I'm just trying to let you know, you could also block vote if you choose to, so you could do all of the A's, and then you could discuss them too.
Thank you for the suggestion.
No problem.
A8, be it resolved, the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Adelina Rekovic to be designated district's custodian of records as required under the Open Public Records Act, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to roll call, please.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
A9, be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Renee Metzger as the treasurer of school money, whose term of office shall coincide with the life of the board.
Motion.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Ms. Bolt, yes, Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
A10, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Timothy C. Capone as the district's ADA officer.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to roll call.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
Yes.
A11, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Timothy C. Capone as the district's affirmative action officer.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to roll call, please.
Ms. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Ms. Cameron,
Yes.
Ms. Chris, yes, Ms. Holsey,
Yes.
Mr. Flossie.
A12, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Daniel Esparza as the district's homeless liaison.
Motion.
Second.
I would like to consider,
I was just going to let me open it for discussion.
I would like to consider amending the motion to say that this position is without a stipend.
Any other discussion?
I
Would
didn't
we
make
like
a
to-
motion, so I.
Right, I know, I was going to say, if anybody else has anything else, then we can discuss that.
It's without a stipend.
So then we can easily put it in there that there is no stipend. So what I would propose as a motion to be made, Paul, would you want me to read one?
Well, the person who made the motion should consider amending the motion. The person who seconded the motion should consider seconding the amendment unless they don't want to do that.
Okay. So did you want to write one?
Because I didn't make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jen made the motion and I said it.
Okay, go right ahead.
I'll be happy to amend my motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'll amend my second.
So then it would read, potentially, Paul, to include yours. Be it resolved.
Yeah, so I'll amend my motion to include at the end that this is not a stipend position.
Okay,
And Dale, you'll second that?
Yes.
great. You gonna read it? We should,
No, then you would say, is there any further discussion, and then we can vote on it.
I understand that, but I want to make sure that everybody knows what they're voting on, right? So we should read it out loud as it's supposed to be, and if there's any further discussion after that, then we'll move to vote. So, do you understand, Sam? Like, let everybody know what your exact.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you would read it. I just motioned in second, so.
Be it resolved, the Montague Township Board of Education appoints Daniel Listars as the district's homeless liaison. This appointment does not include a stipend and/or additional compensation, is how I would write it. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, move to roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving to A13, be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Daniel Listars as the district's 504 officer. Open for discussion.
I'm going to suggest the same wording, second sentence wording, on this vote at A13 as we just placed on A12.
I have no problem with that.
But then the person who made the motion would
Correct.
have to agree, and the person who seconded the motion would have
Have
to
to amend our motion.
Correct.
And again, this is not a stipend position.
If there's a, Mr. Capone, if I may, just for clarification, if there's a stipend associated with this, and it has language that says how much the stipend is, because we have to approve that.
So, and again, if we're going to continue to do this, you're about to run into an issue that is a stipend position, okay? And then you're going to have the contract issue that comes up with this. So for these two, it doesn't matter because they're not paid. So adding the language or not adding the language really has no effect.
We would really like the language.
So because of that, okay, it doesn't make any difference on those two. But again,
If a position's being appointed and it does have a stipend accompanied with it, then it should be listed with the amendment here, or the resolution here, that there's a stipend associated with this position.
A14 and A15 both were given, she was given $1,000 in December. On each of those, it's not listed here.
Those aren't supposed to be.
I'm just saying,
We were on 13, but you just
So
made
let's
a
go back to
generalized statement,
A13.
Mr. Capone.
yeah, go ahead.
So we can focus on 13. We do have a motion and a second on the floor, and then Paul, you've asked to have it amended, so whoever made the motion.
I
Who
don't
who
even.
shall it
I
out?
put it second.
I made the motion, I'll amend my motion so that it needs to be resolved on the Township Board of Education. As the district's 504 officer, this position does not include a stipend or other additional compensation.
And does the second approve?
Yes.
Any further discussion? No further discussion, roll call please.
yes.
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 Okay, we'll move to A14, please. Be it resolved, Montague Board of Education appoints Daniel Esarza as the district's truancy officer.
Motion.
Any second? Discussion?
I'm going to suggest the same verbiage for this position as well.
Okay, Paul.
As the previous.
So we have to follow with the same procedure, the person who made the first motion. Do you agree to the amendment?
I'll agree with the amendment.
And the person who seconded, do you agree with the amendment?
We do.
So this,
I'm going to
motion,
recommend that you not do that,
can you explain that recommendation, Mr. Capone?
because if that's what you want to do for 8:14, then you should really table this until the next meeting, okay, so that you can raise that individual, talk about it in executive session, okay, so that you can take monies away from them.
It's not in the
That's
contract.
Do we have a change?
I'll motion to table it then.
It's not in the Montague contract.
Thanks for peanut gallery chiming in. You have to-
Mr. Capone, we do not need to have any comments. New audience, please, can you wait until public comment? Thank you. Dale, did you,
I amend my motion to table it.
amend your motion to table it? Do we have a second on that amendment? To table it.
It would be Danielle, I believe, if we're amending the motion, right?
Right at the top here, if you can write smooth, and then second.
Yes, thank you, I have that. That's Karen motion.
I didn't see you writing it, I was just trying to help. So you know who I'm talking to, because it wasn't Danielle second. Not Denise.
Thank you.
I'll agree with that.
To table. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call to table, please. We're tabling it. We can table it without roll call? Yes. Yes. Okay. She said yes, yes.
Okay. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Briscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Carol?
Yes.
Ms. Chris? Yes. Ms. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Eight 15, be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints Pamela Starza to the district's residency officer.
I would motion to table it.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Briscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Carol?
Yes.
Ms. Chris? Yes. Ms. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Move to A16. Be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education appoints blank delegate and, delegate alternate to the New Jersey School Boards Association whose term shall coincide with the length of the board. I have first, a motion,
All right, motion.
Second.
discussion.
Well, I'd like to nominate myself, since I don't know if anybody else is going to the New Jersey School Boards Association convention if and when it's held. And I know I'll go if it's held.
I have a second one.
Any other nominations?
We're going to nominate Barbara for delegate and Denise for alternate.
I'll second that.
It says a point, so I would ask Mr. Capone.
But they all say a point.
There's a point rather than nominate.
Well, there has to be a nomination in order for there to get a point.
That's how you do it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we have a nomination of Glenn as delegate. And Glenn, did anybody want to do an alternate with you? Anybody want to nominate an alternate? Okay. So we have Glenn and Denise as one round, and then Coleman, Bart, and Denise. Any other nominations?
Just for record purposes, I'll say I will modify my nomination to be Susan.
As will I.
Do you want to move for, roll call, please?
But we have two sets of nominations, so we'll be voting on that.
Or delegate, I think is gonna be, I mean, the alternate's gonna be you.
Yeah, but we have to identify who is voting on. Barbara, myself, or myself.
I think she's, as you do roll call, it would be the first, just like we did before. We would do Glenn and Denise, and then the second round would be myself and
Since, if I may, we'll do it.
You're more than welcome, Mr. Blaski, thank you.
It seems to me that since Denise is the same on both, if you just go around and say, unless somebody has an objection to Denise, you articulate it. Otherwise, we assume we were saying yes to Denise, and just articulate whether you want to do myself or Barbara. Now, you vote.
I don't have a problem with it, as long as Don feels comfortable doing that.
To be clear, if Denise is going as the alternate, so you would just be roll calling Barbara or Glenn.
No, just.
Just ask either or.
Same thing.
Either or.
Which one?
Yes.
We voted.
You're either saying Barbara
Just say.
or
Oh,
you're
you're
saying.
saying the alternate.
Denise is the same on both.
Thank you.
And we'll do it as we did before.
Barbara?
Barbara? Barbara?
Glenn.
Barbara?
Myself, Barbara.
I'll see.
You're good to go. Ms. Herkovich. Okay, 17. Where is the
Oh,
Montague?
wait, excuse me.
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
So, yeah, now that we have the nominations, now we have to call the vote. So I would modify my motion for A16 to be it resolved that Montague Township Board of Education and Barbara Olson delegate to the alternate to the New Jersey School Board Association, who's outside the board.
Okay.
And then you have a roll call, discussion, whatever, roll call vote on that. All will be second now.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Plotkin. Any discussion on A16? So now that it's amended and it's been read as amended, Mr. Plotkin, do we have to do another roll call? Thank you. So we'll do another roll call, very please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Madam President, I need to step out. Continue to the next.
We'll take a 3-minute recess, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion for a 3-minute recess.
All in favor?
Carried. All in favor?
Aye. Don't say any opposed.
Thank you so much.
There's something missing.
Mr. Plotkin.
Okay. Okay, we got that. And then participation. Not participation. Need to do what we're told now, which is still there. That's what we got to put in the release process.
You're not supposed to talk about this stuff right now.
Ooh, okay, that's what I was about.
Sorry. Absolutely careful when we talk about it. It's not like when we're back in questions.
I understand that, but there's conversations board members can have together, not together. We're in recess.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We have a motion to reopen the meeting.
Motion, second.
Meeting's reopened.
It's not, you have to say all in favor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's in session. I'm a quick study this, I'll catch up, thank you. A17, whereas the Montague Board of Education desires to establish procedures for authorized signatures to be placed on the various categories of checks issued by the board. Be it resolved that the signatures of the board president, school business administrator, and the treasurer of school money shall be required on checks issued in the payment of bills. And be it further resolved that the signature of the board president and the treasurer of school monies and the original signature of the school business administrator, chief school administrator shall be required on bill lists, and be it further resolved that the signature of treasurer of school money shall be required on all checks issued on payroll agency account. Going to skip reading the account summary. It's present and on the agenda.
Motion, second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to roll call.
You need to read in signatures too, where it says board president. It needs to be corrected to name the board president.
So then I'll make the correction. On the agenda that says general fund prosperous as board president, let that reflect Barbara Holstein. And under capital reserves, signature 2, again, let it reflect Barbara Holstein. So that can be corrected.
And the motions,
And a motion to reflect what you stated.
Also amend my second.
Thank you. Would you like me to read the entire thing over again? Motion is amended to reflect the board president's name. Any discussion after the amending? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bolton? Yes. Mr. Brownwell?
yes.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yes.
Ms. Camerity?
Yes.
Ms. Chrisman? Yes. Ms. Holstein?
Yes.
Mr. Quashi?
Yes.
Move to 818. Be it resolved, the Montague Board of Township Education appoints President Holstein, together with Timothy C. Capone, Superintendent Eric Muskin, School Business Administrator, to be authorized to sign payroll summary sheets prepared semi-monthly. A motion?
You missed the vice president and missed the name, and you have to read the whole thing.
Pardon me. It wasn't highlighted. I did miss it. I'll go and reread it again. A18, to be reread into the record. Be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education appoints President Barbara Holstein, or in their absence, Vice President Denise Vogel, together with Tennessee C. Capone, Superintendent Erica Muskin, School Business Administrator, to be authorized to sign the payroll summary sheets prepared semi-monthly.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Ms. Vogel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Ms. Carlucci? Yes. Ms. Christmas? Yes. Ms. Holstein?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
A19, be it resolved that the Montague Township Board of Education names, I'm gonna leave it blank at the time, be designated as the official newspaper, and blank will be designated as the official alternate newspaper.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, you should put in there New Jersey Herald and
Okay,
New Jersey Sunday Herald.
I'm not opposed to that. Anybody else, any other discussion? I'll reread A19, be it resolved.
Wait. Paul, is that a motion that you put in the New Jersey Herald and the New Jersey Sunday Herald?
Well, I'll amend the second, and if that's,
No. That's my point. It was read with the blanks.
yes,
Dale made the motion, you made the second.
right,
Now we have to fill in the blanks.
okay,
That's done by motion second and vote.
okay,
So I'm making a motion to
Yes.
put in New Jersey Herald and New Jersey Sunday Herald.
absolutely, yes.
And then is there a second?
Okay.
I'll second.
A19, be it resolved, Montague Township Board of Education names the Herald to be designated as the official newspaper and the Sunday Herald to be designated as the official alternate newspaper. Then you have the first and the second. Now it's read aloud with the names in there. Any discussion?
I'm not sure that there was actually a vote on the names. There's a motion and a second to put those names in. So then.
But I was doing a discussion, so now if there's any more discussion, then now we'll move to vote, correct?
Right, first you have to vote and put the names in, and then you have to do the vote on the actual resolution. I mean, it's time consuming, but that's how we go.
I think we did that last year, Glenn. We followed that procedure.
So Mr. Pulaski, how would you recommend it?
Okay.
That's
So
the procedure.
Well, the discussion would be about the two names proposed by Mr. Briscoe, second, I think, by Mr. Briscoe.
Correct, I didn't hear anybody speak up for the discussion. Did anybody want to discuss?
And if there's no discussion, vote on that.
That's what I thought we were voting on.
What are the other alternatives? I guess maybe.
The discussion is with the board members, correct?
And Mr. Briscoe is a no.
Yes. So again, is there any answers for what alternatives there are?
Well, again, I guess I would look at it and say, just take the last article that we have one reporter that we have constantly dealt with, okay, who writes articles who are inaccurate, who doesn't vet his sources.
Mr. Capone,
I'm
we're discussing,
I'm speaking.
no, I'm sorry, but you're not going to sit here and
If we're
go
sitting
over.
here talking about
Mr.
what
Capone,
papers you're going to utilize,
we're going to
okay,
use the Sussex
there are-
Times papers.
there are other papers that write articles that are accurate.
That would be your
There-
opinion, Mr. Capone. We're designated newspapers to advertise legal advertisements. We're not
You're not going
critiquing the
to
articles
let
in the
me
newspaper.
You're not going to let me speak?
Not if you're gonna
That's
sit here and
correct.
badger the newspaper, because it's not related to what we're doing. We're going to be advertising legal arguments and legal advertisements in the newspaper. We're not critiquing the articles that are written in the newspaper.
I absolutely think it's relevant that the news is reported accurately. Okay, so just taking the latest article that we have. and
Mr.
there are
Capone, once
issues
again,
addressing-
Mr. Capone, we are not critiquing the newspaper. We are advertising legal advertisements in the newspaper.
You don't have the authority
to not allow me to speak at the board table. I understand that you're confused, that you didn't realize I was a board member.
That is not the case, Mr. Capone.
Okay,
You are not
that's
voting
what,
board
I'm
member.
sure if we watched the video, that's exactly what just happened. You just said amongst the board members, of which I am one. So,
You are a non-voting board member.
which means I get to participate in discussions.
Absolutely. But
Okay,
at this
so-
point right now, as far as this discussion is going, it is limited to how we are legally advertising our advertisements for the school district. We are not critiquing any of the reporters or any of the other affiliations, anything else to do with the newspaper. So I'd ask you to limit your comments to how we deal with paying for the newspaper, how we deal with advertising in the paper, and if you have another suggestion for advertising our legal arguments, that would be fine. Otherwise, we are not discussing critiquing the newspaper. You can write an editorial to them if you want.
I absolutely think that the relevance here is that you would want to, if we have one newspaper, okay, that we're using for both of these, that's not what you should have. You should have an alternate that is different from having one newspaper, so that you have maybe two reporters, okay, maybe one that can do it accurately, and have other news come up in our town that would be reflected accurately. So there's the Star Ledger, there's other options that are out there that you could utilize as far as instead of having both of those being from one entity. And that would be my recommendation as opposed to having both newspapers run by one company, okay, where you're going to basically have one piece run as opposed to multiple.
Thank you for your recommendation. A19, it still stands with first and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, actually, I recommend or make a motion that the Star Ledger be included either as the official newspaper or the alternate.
So we're having a discussion now to include the Star Ledger. Any other discussions? Do we have a,
You made a motion, right, Ben?
there's a first and a second on accepting the Herald and the Sunday, so we would have to have an amendment to the 819. If the person who made the motion wants to amend it to include the Star Ledger or replace it, then that would be what was currently would be need to be done. Okay, so we're gonna vote on it as this, A19. Any further discussion? Let me just clarify, make sure you guys are all done discussing. So the motion as a first and second is A19, be it resolved, the Montague Township Board of Education needs the Herald, the New Jersey Herald, be designated as the official newspaper, and the New Jersey Sunday Herald be designated as the official alternate newspaper. Roll call, please.
Vogel?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisler?
Yes.
Ms. Carolini? No. Ms. Christmas? Yes. Ms. Colby?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
No.
Motion carries. A20. Does the Board of Education approve following dates for the public meetings? Whereas designation of meetings 18A:10-6, excuse me. Whereas the Open and Public Meetings Act requires the Board of Education to provide notice of regularly scheduled meetings within 7 days following the annual reorganization of the board. And whereas the Board of Education of the Township of Montague established the following notice of regularly scheduled meetings be adopted and held at the Montague Township School Cafeteria. Notice of public meetings for the Board of Education, 475 Route 206, Montague, New Jersey, 07827, 6:30 p.m. The following dates were listed. January 25th, 2021, February 22nd, 2021, March 15th, 2021, adoption and filing of the budget tentative. April 26th, 2021, public budget hearing tentative. May 24th, 2021, June 28th, 2021, July 28th, 2021, August 23rd, 2021, September 27th, 2021, October 25th, 2021, November 22nd, 2021, December 20th, 2021, and January 3rd, 2022 organization meeting. Be it resolved, further resolved, that the aforesaid notice of regularly scheduled meetings be posted in the Montague Township School on the community bulletin board located outside the front office at 475 US Route 206, Montague, New Jersey, 07827. And be it further resolved, the aforesaid notice of regularly scheduled meetings be filed with the filed with the Montague Township clerk. And be it further resolved, special meetings where official action is taken will be scheduled as needed in compliance with New Jersey Sunshine Law. Closed executive sessions with the public excluded for the purpose of discussing personnel, legal matters, negotiations, or any other exception as defined in NJSA 10:4-12 will be authorized as needed by resolution during public meetings or by special notice.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to change the meeting venue from cafeteria to the school gym. Meetings in the past were held there. It allows for more public participation, plus you can open the windows and the doors. We can possibly meet the COVID restrictions and guidelines more effectively. And I'd also like to change the meeting date from Mondays and return to Wednesdays, where it officially was. So there's actually two things I'm talking about. The space itself and then the actual dates.
Those Wednesdays, would you?
If it were to be Wednesdays, it would be January 13th and 27th. That'd be the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. February 10th and 24th, March 10th and 24th, April 14th and 28th, and the budget hearing would be the 28th. May 24th, May 12th and 26th, June 9th and 23rd, July 14th and 28th, August 11th and 25th, September 8th and 22nd, October 13th and 27th, November 10th and 24th, December 8th and 22nd, and then January 5th would be the reorganization meeting for 2022.
I have a quick question. We usually have a meeting, it seems like twice a month or every other week, so I was just curious why maybe it looks like it's only once a month.
The 13th and 27th are on the second and the fourth.
I'm saying this, I'm looking at this list.
Danielle, you're asking about the list that was prepared on the agenda. And for some reason, it was prepared with just one meeting a month. Denise is proposing that we move to the second and fourth weeks to have meetings on Wednesdays on the second and fourth week of each month at 6:30 p.m. in the gymnasium.
So the reason, just educationally or historically, the reason that meetings were moved from Wednesdays to Mondays was to avoid conflicts for at least one board member, specifically me. If you move meetings to the second and fourth Wednesday, I will essentially you'll end up removing me from the board because I have other obligations, professional, that would require me to, you probably don't care. But it meant a lot to me, and that was part of the reason why the meetings were moved to Mondays. And by the way, when I asked about the Mondays, every single person on the board, including 5 of the people sitting at this table right now, said either that Mondays were fine with them or that Mondays were better for them than the Wednesdays. Now, I have no idea what your obligations are in this whole scheme. I have no obligation what your obligations are in this total. But you know, that's why the meetings will go to Mondays, and why I would request them to remain on Mondays. And just for clarification, I will not amend my motion to move the date to Wednesdays. So you have to vote down the motion in second, and then have a different motion in second if you're going to move to Wednesday. So I can't support that because I just can't.
Okay.
We're still in discussion.
Yes, we're still in
What
discussion.
about Thursdays?
I have meetings, I literally, and I mean no disrespect. I don't know who else works. I know Paul works at night as an accountant. I don't know that anybody else does. I know I have 3 nights off a month, 2 of which are the Mondays that the meetings were held. specifically the second and fourth. As apparently some of you were concerned, last Monday's meeting was canceled. There was some question about the fact that I was at the Deer Park Town Board meeting, on the first Monday of the month at 7:30. Well, the first and third Mondays of every month at 7:30, I can be in Deer Park. Just so it's very clear, since Mr. Overnow did obviously include the part where I explained that I had made arrangements to be at, yes, 3 different places at the same time. I made arrangements to be here at 6:30. I made arrangements to have access to the Wi-Fi on my tablet so I could participate in my sister's zoning board of appeals meeting in the town of LaGrange, which would have taken me 10 minutes. So I would have stepped out of the meeting had the meeting been held up last Monday. And I made arrangements in the county Deer Park late because I anticipated that this meeting would go longer than an hour. And this meeting was canceled. Yeah, I was at the county Deer Park on time. I didn't have to be here. I was able to do the virtual meeting for my sister at 7 o'clock. And I was at the county Deer Park at 7:30. So whoever raised that question,
So Glenn, what you're saying is Wednesday's not good for you.
literally, yes, Wednesdays are not good for me. Thursdays are not good for me. Tuesdays are not good for me. There are 2 Mondays a month that are good for me. If we meet once a month, I can tell you which Thursday I think it is on one.
Okay.
I'm just still curious why we're only meeting, looking back to this original list, why we're only meeting once a month.
Yeah, and I would certainly be open to discussion. We definitely need to meet more than once a month. We need to stick with 2 meetings a month. So that would certainly be not changed. at least
Or
according to
Monday's
me.
still okay for everybody.
But I had to read this in as the
Monday's
agenda
still
has
hard
it.
for me, but
So
I can make changes.
any other discussion? I need to hear from you guys if you want.
Well, it should, these apparently are the 4th Mondays of the month. And I think that we should also meet the 2nd Mondays of the month.
Okay, so you'd rather,
Yeah, so then would I just then bring it forward? This is just discussion.
well, actually, the resolution, the motion is on the floor, calls for the meeting dates that are in the bold that are on here. You're discussing that it would be, you suggested you like Wednesdays. Mr. Klosky has just made his, presentation. He's not available Mondays. It seems that no one else is opposed to staying with Monday. So if we want to stay with Mondays, but we do need to add in another meeting of the month. There needs to be 2 meetings a month.
So Mondays are good for everybody. It's just that we need to add a
Use the
second.
microphones for the,
Oh, I'm sorry. So Mondays are good for everybody. We need to add a second to the 4th that we have here.
So Mr. Pulaski, would you be willing to amend in your motion to include a second meeting, which would be so if this is the 4th Monday of the month, it would be the 2nd Monday of the month and the 4th? And also, is there any opposition to setting up in the gymnasium so that we can accommodate more of the public as we move forward here?
I don't know any, I've never been to a meeting in the gym. I know nothing about it, whether it works or not. I would defer and maybe inquire of the.
We've set them up in the gym before. They've been in the gymnasium when the meetings were large, and because the room is going to have attendance in it, because people are indicating that they want to come to meetings online and, both personally and online. So we would like to see that it goes into the gymnasium so we can accommodate that with the COVID regulations.
Again, administration or IT wise, I don't know if that piece is doable.
Mr. Romano, could you please ask, let us know, is there any indication that you would not be able to set up the technology in the gymnasium to cover the meeting?
That's not an issue.
Great, thank you. Okay, so in order to amend this, Mr. Plasky, would you be willing to amend it to include a gymnasium instead of cafeteria and adding in the 2nd Monday of the month as also an additional meeting date?
Yes.
Because I do not have a calendar in front of me, Donna, would you be able to add in the new meeting dates for each month? Or do I need to get a calendar in?
I got you covered. January, assuming that we're not going to have a meeting on Monday, which is 3 days away, which realistically we couldn't expect to be ready for. It would be January 25th, It would be February 8th, February 22nd, March 8th, March 22nd, April 12th, April 26th, May 10th, May 24th, June 14th, June 28th, July 12th, July 26th, August 9, August 23, September 13, September 27, October 11 is a legal holiday, I just mentioned that, October 25th, November 8th, November 22nd, December 6th, December 20th.
And then the rework meeting would proceed on January 3rd, 2022.
Correct. Yeah, that actually is the first Monday. So should I run and should I be reelected? I'll tell you right now, I'll have to be two places on the same day.
Any further discussion on it? So Denise, you're suggesting that you want to have the meeting this coming Monday as well?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So can you please add that date and Mr. Plosky unless?
That should be the 11th. Am I correct?
It would be January 11th. I don't know that there's any way that an agenda, a meaningful agenda, can be organized in 3 days. I've done this for 5 years. That's the only reason why I hesitate to put the 11th in. It's 3 days away.
There's no purpose administratively. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago in December. We're having a meeting
There's a
tonight.
lot of work.
You have, on the 25th, you have school boards coming for your ethics training.
I'm going to shut that next.
I'm not opposed to having a meeting on January. We have a lot of work that we need to be done, and Mr. Capone and I need to develop the agenda together. We can move forward. And typically the agendas are out 48 hours in advance, right? That's, so. So I need to, Mr. Plosky, are you going to amend it to include January 11th?
What is the reason that you're gonna have an emergency meeting on Monday?
We
And
did
that would
not.
be the question.
It's not an emergency meeting, we're setting the regular calendars and we want 2 meetings a month.
And with no agenda items.
So if we had gone with the Wednesdays, it would have been the 13th, not the 11th, but because we're accommodating Mr. Plosky's schedule, we are looking to move it to the 11th instead of the 13th.
So with no agenda items, you're talking about,
You and I need to
meeting
discuss with you.
on
agenda
Monday.
items.
Ms. Olson, I really hope that over the course of this year, you're not gonna speak over me every time that I speak. Okay?
The way you do it.
The purpose is that you have a meeting, you have agenda items. We don't have any agenda items for Monday.
You may not have an agenda item, but we will be speaking with you after this meeting to discuss what we would like to discuss at the agenda coming up Monday.
If you're looking at posting this, so this would have to get out tomorrow or Monday, you can't meet, are you gonna meet OPMA for Monday?
Could you please repeat yourself? Can you please repeat?
Are you going to be OPMA for Monday? I don't think you are.
The meeting act.
Yes, if it was to go out tomorrow, then it will be in 48 hours notice of Monday.
I think that's unreasonable to think that we're going to leave here at whatever time, sit down tomorrow, put together an agenda, meet
Okay,
the
so then,
OPMA.
Mr. Plosky, could we agree to possibly meet on January 13th for this first Wednesday, and that would be the only Wednesday meeting of the year?
You can agree to meet on January 13th. I'm not available
I'm not
Okay.
available.
I literally
That would be
have
it. So
work
can we
meetings
include-
every Wednesday.
Can we include January 13th in your amended items so that we can accommodate not having the short notice for the meeting for Mr. Capone?
Not that we're going for the law.
I mean, I'll put it out there, but I don't know if you'll have a forum.
Great.
I'm not available.
Thank you for the, so we're gonna put the 13th in. List that with the dates that Mr. Plotski read off.
Is
And
not who is available on? Everybody here?
I'm not available.
Paul, are you available?
I will make myself available, yes.
Al, you're available?
My evenings are always clear.
Is there enough time to advertise? That's the big question.
yes, there is, thank you.
I initially made the motion. You
Yes.
Seconded it.
So we would have to have an amend.
I would amend the motion to cover all what we discussed now.
Thank you. And are we good with the 13th? Denise did make the suggestion just now to consider the 12th, which would also give us enough time to do the OPMA.
Is the 12th better for you?
Is the 12th?
I think you also have the 13th.
Okay. All right, if there's any more, no more discussion?
Jennifer said she wasn't available.
I'm not available Wednesday.
So how about Tuesday?
I'm not available Tuesday. No, I just got my calendar.
I have to check, honestly. I have to get childcare and stuff like that, so I know for sure I can't do it.
So we'll leave it with the 13th.
13th, we'll have to try.
About Thursday.
Not Thursday.
Anybody object to Thursday, the 14th? So that we can get the the first of two meetings entries.
Why do hanging school?
Can we do it January 25th and then the Monday before that?
No,
Not-
The 18th.
It needs to-
Are you available Friday, Gwen, or no?
Sorry, that's the one night I do have one.
What is the urgent item between now and January 25th? You haven't done your ethics training, and
First of all, I did do ethics training when I was on a board member before. And secondly, we're going to reach out and discuss it with you tomorrow, Mr. McCall.
so, again, there's no urgent items that we have as a district between now and January 25th.
Mr. Capone will reach out to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say we're gonna go with the 13th. If you can be here, you can be here. If you cannot, then if we have a quorum, we have a quorum. Dale, you initially, you have agreed to amend your motion.
Yes, I amended.
Mr. Plotski, you were the second, correct?
I was,
Thank you, Mr. Plotski. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, can we move for roll call with the amendment of the gymnasium being the location and the amended dates to start with January 13th, moving through the dates that Mr. Plotski read.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving to A21, that all existing bylaws, policies, regulations, curriculums, textbooks, contracts, and agreements as established by act and practice of previous boards of education are to remain in full force and effect until such time as the present board necessitates change by way of resolution.
Motion?
Is there any here? So who's that, Dale? And Denise or Glenn? Denise?
I agree with you.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Yes.
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 Okay. Moving to A23.
Barbara, there is an A22 that was on last year's agenda. So my suspicion is it's probably the same as, for this year as it was last year. My suspicion it was just inadvertently left off. So we could either table A22, or I could read it, and if people want more time to consider it, I have no problems tabling A22.
I have a concept, since it's not on the agenda, therefore wasn't posted.
Okay.
Why don't we just make sure it's on the next agenda, so we can vote on it, then we don't have to table something and we don't know what it is.
Okay. Okay.
You may want to renumber today's A23 to A22.
So those are equal.
So, Mark, what was your question, Mr. Capone?
Did I miss the vote on A21?
We just voted on A29. And A22 is not on the agenda because it's so on A21 to A23. So Mr. Brisling was recommending that we either go back to the A22 from last year's reorg meeting minutes, or Mr. Plosky recommended that we table it. So next, we just skip A22 completely and move directly to A23, possibly renumbering it. Donna, what would you recommend? As secretary, do you want it?
I can put A22 on the next agenda, or wants to prepare.
Okay.
So it won't be A22 on the next agenda.
Correct.
It'll be A whatever. And then this, I would make a motion that this A23 would be numbered as A22.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to renumber A23 as A22, the first and the second. Any discussion?
We do it all in favor?
Yes, we're gonna do it all in favor. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A22, that new A22 carries. We'll read out A22. A22, that the board approved participation with the Sussex County Educational Services Commission for the 21-22 school year.
Motion.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Ms. Vogel?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisling?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll? Yes. Ms. Chrisman? Yes. Ms. Wolfson?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be moving to correspondence. Is there any correspondence, Mr. Pacone?
No.
Seeing there's no correspondence, we'll move to approval of minutes. I'm going to take just a few minutes to look over the minutes because I didn't get them until we sat down at the table here. We'll have a short. Oh, we do. So, thank you, Denise. For those comments. We have to recuse ourselves.
No, sorry.
We're not here, we were not.
If you didn't, I think that the rule is that if you actually listen to the recording and can swear or affirm you did, then you can vote
Oh.
5 minutes or after. Or you can just abstain because you weren't board members and therefore just take possession. You're not voting. It's a non-vote.
I'm familiar with them.
That's what I
Having
did.
participated in the meeting. Let me just take a quick look at them while you guys are. So we'll open it up for approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? If you're familiar enough with it, according to what Mr. Plosky said, the fact that we participated in the minutes, we are able to.
You were at the meeting, so you heard everything?
And I should hold that. Yeah. The only question I have is that was it, at that time, now we also.
Just speak with your microphone.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
At that meeting, at that point, that was when we approved the $1,000 stipend or whatever that was, for Ms. Straza. And at this meeting, now we've negated that. So by approving these minutes, there's one that
I will consider them to be
Another?
unrelated. Those minutes were approved based on last year's.
so it doesn't make any difference, one thing or the other.
These are the minutes that happened at the last meeting, so we're just saying that this is what happened at the last meeting, and everything's accurate.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And that was for the first half of the 2020-2021 school year, which would have ended December 31st.
Correct.
So the motion that was tabled this evening.
Would be the second half.
For January to June.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, so we have, any more further discussion? Roll call for approval of the minutes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy?
Yes.
Ms. Marici?
Yes.
Ms. Christie? Yes. Ms. Wolfski?
Yes.
Ms. Paulson?
Yes.
Okay, so, before, I wanted to add in other business section, so as, I can do that either, I'd like to do it before public session,
Being old business or new business?
It's
just other business. I'd like to add in sections for other business.
Second.
Pretty sure that might be a policy change, since you're not changing the agenda. I mean, you can move to modify the agenda, if that's what you're doing.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. I'd like to do that.
Okay, well, okay, so you want.
Make a motion to modify the agenda to include
And
other
you
business.
need to be substantially more specific than you just were. You can't just say additional
Yes.
business, then.
And so I think,
Thank you.
like, clarify that between old business and new business, because that's typically what we have now.
It's, we're gonna go under the, well, I'd like to make a motion to open the agenda so that we can include other business items to be discussed before we do public session. Do I have a second?
I second.
But other business just for tonight, no?
Correct.
You're not adding a section?
No.
About other business?
Speak into the microphone. Okay. You are speaking to the microphone. Speak into it.
So the specificity we now have is that we're gonna open the agenda for other business. Whatever that might be.
Or new business, but only tonight.
Correct. I want to insert so that we can cover other business in this agenda because the item, there was no new business, no old business, no section for other business included on the agenda when it was prepared. So having reviewed the agenda, I looked into that we can amend the agenda and amend the agenda to include other business so that we can bring some things as a new board member to the board that we would like to discuss tonight. So as Denise has seconded that motion to add to the agenda other business. Is there any discussion on that motion?
For the argument of cement, you just want to call it new business?
I suspect it may not be, that it might be, it might not, I mean, I don't know, semantically, I have no idea what they want to talk about.
It's just, as I researched, it's not allowed to be new business. It should just be other business. And trying to do this, and adding it into the agenda and making an amendment into the agenda. So I motion to make the amendment for opening the agenda to other business, and Denise seconded it. Okay. So I'd like to leave it other business. I don't want to amend it. Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, can we do a roll call to amend the agenda to include other business? I want it to be clear. See how there's some confusion as to whether or not I'm allowed to do this. Everybody gets a chance to say yes or no instead of roll call.
I read 3 other agendas from your meetings, and they all listed other business.
Okay. Again, thank you, Dr. Dawson. Want to do roll call, please?
Ms. Vogel?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Rizlet?
Yes.
Ms. Carmody?
Abstain.
Ms. Christmas? Yes. Ms. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
No,
Okay. So under other business, a couple of the items that I'd like to bring up is I'd like to ask for a motion to go out for an RFP for food services. So that would be, the first item that I'd like to cover is I'd like to make a motion to,
before you make the motion, did you not say a moment ago that you can't raise new business at this meeting?
it's a request for proposal and not proposing new business. I just want to do a request for proposal for food services to address some of the community issues that we have with food services.
Okay, just so we're clear.
If it's a request for proposal, it's not proposing any new action item.
Authorizing or directing a request for a proposal is essentially directing an action item. It is new business. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. You make the motion. If you get a second and a vote, have at it.
So the motion's on the table that I just presented. I presented the motion to put out an RFP for food services to try to determine if there are any alternatives for food service options to our Montague school other than the current option that we have. Do I have a second on the motion?
Seconded.
Discussion. Anybody have any questions? It's gonna have to be written in. So there's a motion on the table, Danielle, to
What's an RFP again?
request for a proposal. And as I just said, what this is the reason I'm introducing this is to address the community's concerns regarding our food service program and to see what other options are out there and to be able to present those options at the next board meeting for the community.
So
The
from now
next-
till
the next
Wednesday,
board
you
meeting-
think we're gonna get proposals?
Okay.
Because I was going to bring this up as new business in the next meeting that we have, but, so you're requesting, this is not new business, but you want proposals by Wednesday.
We'll get them.
Who will get them?
Oh, I'm sure if you put the ad out there, people will answer.
Right, because the ad's been going on Monday, and they get answers in 48 hours.
Perhaps we will not have them by the
I'm just
13th.
confused how this
We
is
can
a
work
new
with it.
business.
Maybe we might not have it, but at least proposals out there. So that's what we want to start doing.
But what's the urgency from now until Wednesday? That's
The
what I'm
urgency is that the community has expressed a desire that they want to see a change in the food service and moving right in, we want to make sure that we're addressing what the community's issues are that they've brought to the attention. A request for proposal is simply that, it's putting out an advertisement saying that we would like a
I'm not
request
opposed
for
to that, I'm just
proposal.
opposed to how it's being done, what the
Is
urgency
it,
is right
are
now.
you, Ms. Carmody, are you opposed to how it's being done because it's being done right now and not when you wanted to do it?
No,
Is that
I'm
the
concerned
problem?
too that it's new business, that it's not other business. That's what I'm concerned about.
It's under other business at this point because of the fact that it was, new business was left off of the agenda for tonight. And other business is an appropriate agenda item.
So if we can't do new business, we'll pull other business and talk about new business.
It's not new business. This is simply just asking for a request for a proposal.
Correct.
But this is the first time it's been discussed, so it is new business.
It is not the first time that the food service part has been discussed. This has been an ongoing item. This is not a surprise. This is simply newly elected board members trying to do what the due diligence is to follow what the public has asked for. And we have a motion on the table. We have a second to that motion and in discussion right now.
So with no understanding about how this happens operationally, you want to go out and get RFPs to do what with and when?
We want to get an RFP to see what other food service providers could provide to food services here to Montague School.
Starting when?
When they come back with their RFP would be, then we would be looking into the contract as well with the current contract and what the,
So I'm going to encourage board members not to go down this path until you have some kind of plan and you don't make rogue motions
Mr.
or
Capone, the purpose
things
is to make a plan
that are
instead of
to
just,
allow this to occur without going through the proper procedure.
and that's what we're
That's what I
trying
would
to do.
encourage you to do.
What is the proper procedure? What would be steps number one?
So if this is something that you're interested in doing, then you would ask for information about that to bring back and have a discussion at the table about pursuing that. That's what you would do. You would not go out and get RFPs in January.
I beg to differ. So let's do it and let's see what happens.
so we have to
And then
take
we'll
a vote
start,
on it.
and then we'll move forward from there, instead of bouncing it around off the walls like we've been doing for last year.
So what we need to do is, at this point, is there any further discussion? We do have a motion on the table with a second to go out and get RFP for food services that are available to Montague School, other than the one that we currently have. Any further discussion?
So,
Seeing-
I have
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
question. So Mr. Capone says we would have discussion. You said, you would bring it to the table. No, I'm not.
The proper procedure here is that you would have a conversation on whether or not that's something that you want to pursue, and then give that direction, okay? And then from there, we would talk about what the logistical implications were, okay? And then you would after have that information, then you might consider an RFP, look at the logistical and look at when a start date would be, okay? You wouldn't just come in and say, let's go get an RFP to start when, serve food or what. That's not actually what you should be doing as far as, again, just coming in and making that kind of motion. Especially since, again, you don't know how these things work, right? So we had a conversation in the last meeting, right, where you were saying that we should have our own kitchen and service than here, right? And that way we could pick the food, okay? We would have greater choice. We would have our employees that would be able to identify that. As far as, again, logistically, you have greater control. And that's what we talked about, is when you have greater control, then you can pick the foods that are going on the menu and it's not coming from somewhere else and all of those other things. That's the last conversation we had the last board meeting. Now, this is a 180, saying mid-year, let's go get an RFP for food services.
Well, we can't do
Again,
it.
That's
sorry.
not a 180, that's not a 180.
That is.
That's a separate proposal altogether.
It's the exact
Exactly. No,
opposite
It's a separate
of having-
proposal. A cafeteria is a capital expense, it's a separate
You talk
proposal.
over me, but
We're talking, I am,
reality
Mr.
is
Capone, you're
that
talking
is the
over-
because you're
opposite.
just
Miss
frustrated.
Okay,
Mr.
what it is
Capone,
that
Ms.
person-
Bogle has the floor right now, please.
I was speaking first, okay?
Go ahead.
So that's the last discussion we had, and at the last meeting, I said, if this is what you wanted to pursue, okay? Of the 7 of you that were sitting here then, okay, the 7 of you that are sitting there now, which do you want to do? Do you want to have your own cafeteria and talk about what that is logistically? Do you want to go to an RFP? Okay, but again, that wouldn't be something that you're looking at RFP, again, when do you want to start this? Okay, there's logistical components that need to be hammered out as far as just saying, let's go see what things cost on a mid-year contract.
Okay, so my response to that, Mr. Capone, is that this is, I agree completely with Denise, this is 2 separate issues. We need to come up with a long-range plan that would address our cafeteria needs. We have a short-term need right now in front of us where our parents are extremely unhappy with the food service that is being provided to them. They have made that very clear. This is not a new subject. This is an ongoing subject, and I came to the table today as a new board member to get things done. Going out for a request for proposal and asking what food service items are available, what vendors are available, and what kind of services they can provide to Montague School is not, it's not preposterous, as you were indicating. The problem is a start, it is a start, and considering no plan has been presented and the parents' request for food service change has not been taken up by this board prior to today, I came in looking to address that issue. We have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. We're in discussion and we will continue forward with the vote. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing that there's no further discussion, I'd like to take roll call on the motion that's on the floor.
Can I just make one last statement? It's related, it's not directly on the spot. I'm very concerned that new members without their training are micromanaging this direct violation of the code as a board of directors.
I would like to respond to that comment, Mr. Plotski, in the sense that I'm not violating any board of ethics by requesting for a proposal to address the food issues that we've had in the district ongoing prior to today as well. There's nothing unethical about this. The unethical thing is to actually not address the concerns of the parents and the students of this district.
Would you like me to read the code of ethics, Chief, since we didn't do it tonight and every other board district did? Before they opened every meeting, Kinnington, High Point, Freedom, Sandy Sioux Malpac, they all adopted the code of ethics, parliamentary procedure, and also Robert's Rules of Order. And I have it right here.
And
There's no violation of ethics going out to an RFP. So come on, let's stop playing around and let's just do the job.
absolutely, Denise, thank you. Donna, could you please do roll call?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Grizzly?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay, another item of business that we want to do a request for proposal for moving forward, or that I would like to do a request for proposal for, excuse me, is to go out for board attorney request for proposals. This is to address the need. It is not in violation of any policy, just to clarify that before you look at it. So the motion on the table would be to go out request for proposal for new board attorney services for Montague School Board. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion, and we move to roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Grizzly?
Yes.
Mr. Ambrose?
No.
Ms. Christie? Yes. Ms. Holsey?
Yes.
Mr. Plotski?
No.
Okay. The next item I'd like to introduce under other business is the motion for whereas the Montague School Board recognizes that Montague taxpayers bear a significant portion of funding for our school district, and whereas the Montague School Board recognizes the use of bank cap to go over the 2% cap without voter approval, and whereas the Montague School Board recognizes that the taxpayers have a right to participate in their school budgets process, therefore be it resolved, the Montague School Board of Education approve moving the annual school budget and school board member election to the month of April, beginning April 2021. I have a motion to move.
Move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion, please.
Before any of you vote on this, do you understand the implications of doing that?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
There's a whole list of things that I'm not prepared to talk about tonight, okay? But going off half-cocked again and saying, we're gonna make this major change, okay, with no discussion, because 2 board members have come in and said that this is what they wanna do, and having other people going along with this, when you have no information about that,
Actually, Mr. Capone, this was
Is
discussed
that-
at the town meeting last week. The town
This
council
is-
is going for this, and several other school districts have
this
already.
board
moved to
has
the
not
campus.
done that. There has been no discussion here, okay?
I'm asking for
That is-
discussion right
that is
now.
not,
I'm asking for discussion right now. That's what it's open, the
Have you provided
motion.
them as anything as
Is there
far as
any
the
information
regulations
of
and what
why?
those
Because this
changes?
is the first I'm hearing about it, so what
Well,
would the
if you've
purpose of
been, if you read the New Jersey Herald, the articles, Freedom Township just did this, Lafayette is looking to do it, Sussex, our own township discussed it at their meeting last week. This is a very hot topic right now. It was a campaign promise of mine. This is no surprise.
Okay, well, it is to me, so I would like some information, so I can be educated, so I can make a decision on it.
Sure. What do you not understand about what I read? We're simply moving the election from November back to April because it was in April. It was moved to November under the premise that when you move to November, the only way you could go over the 2% cap was to do it by voter approval. Okay? So when school districts have done what Mr. Capone suggested doing back in last April and go over the 2% cap without voter approval, that means the voters do not have a say-so on their election, on the school budget. It takes the right away. So and many school districts have tried to do this, and now through three different means, through the school board, through the town, or through petition of the people, and then referendum on the ballot, the election can be moved back from November to April, so that ensures that every voter in the town has a say-so on their budget, and no school board can go rogue and go over 2% cap without voter approval. That's all this does, is it gives the right to vote on the budget back to the people of this town.
I don't feel personally prepared that I have the information for myself, since this is the first time I'm hearing of it, to make a major decision like this to change something. I need to see the information for myself.
Right, as I said, the gist of this is simply it moves the budget back to April so that the voters get to choose like they always did before Chris Christie changed it in 2012. Voters always approved the school budgets.
I totally hear you, I get it, but again, this is the first time I'm hearing of it, so I would like to do my own research so that I understand it. I don't vote on something if I.
So Barbara, what you do is, we can motion statutes and present them to everybody before the next meeting, not 24 or 48 hours before, but give,
We have motion to
your
table,
email or whatever it is,
that.
and this way you've got it before the next actual meeting.
So would you like to amend your motion to table this?
I think I actually seconded yours.
I had Denise and Dale. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
you can motion to table if you'd like, and we'll table it to the next meeting.
what I would like to do is amend the motion, to take,
Vote to amend it to table.
motion amended to table this motion, given that each board member has provided the adequate information from the state of New Jersey, explaining exactly what the procedure is and what the repercussions are of it. And if that can be given to Donna Sregovich so that she can put that in each person's email so they can have access to it within the next few days. And this way everyone can read it at their leisure and then have an informed decision and choice to make.
Absolutely. No problem with that. So Denise, she's amending your motion, and then Dale has to agree to amend it.
I'll second them, yeah, amended,
And do we want to?
the tabling.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd ask that those motions be amended to table it to the second meeting adjourned, 28th, only because I won't be here first.
Oh, I agree, I can't commit that, I mean, I can see what I can do, but as of right now, I'm not gonna be here either.
Not the next meeting following.
Correct.
Which is,
January 28th, January 25th, sorry.
that gives everybody
That's fine.
3 weeks.
Okay, so in my understanding, I could just do it, all in favor, tabling it. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Table. I have one other item under the other business.
There were just a couple, I think Donna can add them to the next list, Mr. Capone can clarify them.
I have one more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Didn't you have a couple things you want to address?
Yeah, these were just on the delegates to the Sussex County School Boards Association and an alternate. And then I believe the representative is on the, it was to approve Sussex County Ed Services, but they also asked for a representative. At least I've seen that in a couple of different agendas, and it was left out of ours. So that should be added on, maybe on the next agenda.
13th?
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to volunteer for that, can do that.
Okay. So we're adding those items on the agenda. Can I have one other business? I'd like to make a motion to direct the law firm of Parisio and all the other names that go along with that law firm that are handling the High Point case to provide the board with a detailed status update on both legal cases between High Point and Montague, and to provide a detailed plan to withdraw these lawsuits and maintain a full send receive from High Point Regional High School. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Discussion?
Well, I mean, my observation would be to request an attorney, you know, a meeting in executive sessions when learning about litigation makes perfect sense to me.
That's why I made this motion to
Right,
provide.
well, okay, so you only got through half your motion. To tonight, start from the position with zero knowledge that litigation should be withdrawn is, well, I think improper. I think you need information. If you then think that you should follow through with the second half of your motion and direction, that's why people
I would
have
like-
different opinions.
Right, and my point here is I would like to not only have the updated status, but I'd like for him to present a plan to withdraw these lawsuits so that when he gives me the updated status, I can then make an educated decision on the plan that he prevents, and I don't have to go back and forth, wasting time. I want both of them in front of me so that in front of every board member, each one of us can look at them and then evaluate them and then plan to go forward.
But the current board members are aware of what's going on.
As I just said, I want a detailed update for each and every board member so that we're all looking at the same thing. As we said, here's a newly constituted board. We see what they provide us as the updated plan. And then
How would you want to withdraw something you don't know what it is yet?
I didn't say I wanted to. I wanted a plan to withdraw. I wanted him to draft what his plan would be to withdraw so that when we have the updated status, and then he can show us what it would look like if we're going to withdraw, then we would have both of those in front of us to save time. And
I'm
as I said-
gonna ask you to bifurcate your motion, because I have no objection to the first part. I have a very strenuous objection to the second, because we're spending money on something we never need, which doesn't seem to be, financially prudent.
I have no problem separating them out, not at all. So I'll make a motion to amend my motion. The first motion would be to direct Parisio law firm that is representing the High Point School District, representing Montague School District.
It's Porzio, and they represent us.
I was going to correct myself, I realized I said it wrong.
Okay, okay.
A motion to direct the law firm of Porzio, which is representing Montague School District, to provide the board with a detailed status update on both legal cases that can currently exist between High Point Regional High School and Montague School District. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Discussion on the new motion. Seeing no discussion, move to roll call, please.
Ms. Vogel?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos?
Yes.
Ms. Quisling?
Yes.
Ms. Marbucci? Yes. Ms. Christmas? Yes. Ms. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Plum?
Yes.
And the motion carries. I'm going to do the second half of the motion now. I'd like to make a motion to request that the Parisio law firm, Porzio, thank you. Sorry, it's very difficult for some reason. Porzio law firm, which represents Montague School District, to provide a detailed plan to withdraw these lawsuits and maintain a full send receive with High Point. Do I have a second?
I second that.
discussion.
I'll reiterate that I think that until everyone has the information, so we know whether or not it's in the board's and the community's and the taxpayers' interest to withdraw the lawsuit, to pay the law firm, however many hours it would take for them to create some sort of plan that we never come to fruition, doesn't make any appropriate financial fiduciary sense. I think it would be more appropriate to have the status update. And then if the majority of the board, the consensus is that we should be withdrawn, then you say, okay, we'd like you to come back in 2 weeks with a plan to get us out. Until you have that consensus on the first piece, I think it's inappropriate to take for the second.
I recognize what you're saying. However, in order to best address the interests and considering we spent $40,000 on a feasibility study way back when without proper public input and everything else, I'm not going to squabble over trying to make sure that we have both plans in front of us. So when we sit down at the table, most of us are all well abreast of what's been going on. So once we have a document that shows what our current status is in this, and we have a document that right in front of us that also shows what his plan would be, his legal plan, maybe should clarify that, his legal plan to have these lawsuits withdrawn and to, which would maintain a full relationship with the High Point Regional High School. So it's just, I'm not looking for him to do a $40,000 feasibility study, simply looking for him to prepare legally what the plan would be to withdraw these lawsuits and continue to maintain a full send receive with High Point Regional High School.
So how, without having had any legal conversation up until this point, to make a motion and a prejudged determination to do this without looking at that, I think that there's the financial piece on the one side, but it really sounds like that decision's been predetermined. Okay, this is the decision you're making, having never sat and reviewed any of the information with the full board or hearing from your legal counsel.
That's why I'm asking for a plan, Mr. Capone, so that I can review it.
Withdraw.
No.
That's correct.
The plan would be to withdraw the lawsuits.
If we have a majority here that's going to appoint this, then you're saying that should we have enough votes to do that a predetermined decision would be made. Okay, because you have not sat with, you have not, exactly, that's exactly the point. You have not had any information.
You have that plan, and you can decide on it if you have it in front of you.
You have not had any of this information. It's very similar to going out to RFP or board attorney, food services, changing the board election. Now we've got 4 items that with no discussion, content, or context that you have, that you're making decisions on. I would agree with Mr. Plotsky, and I would stress that the ethics training on the 25th, I think is going to be eye-opening as far as what it is that your responsibilities are, what it is that you go about doing, and how you go about doing it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Capone. We are the school board, and as a school board, each one of us votes, and we vote on the resolution that's in front of us. I accept your comments here, but I think that you're wrong.
It's expected that you're educated and that you have information
on
about
the
those
situation.
items.
The problem that you have is that you and I disagree.
You couldn't
on this
possibly be educated
situation.
because you never sat in a meeting with your attorney that represents you in this suit to know where it is and why things were done. You couldn't possibly be educated on it.
Mr. Capone, I'm asking for a detailed plan that would include that would detail how to withdraw these lawsuits so that when he presents the updated status of the plan of the lawsuits, we also have in front of us what it would take to leave those lawsuits so that we can effectively evaluate them at the same time. There is no commitment here other than to evaluate what the current status is and evaluate what it would take to withdraw them at that same time. And then we would proceed forward after those items are presented to each and every board member and proceed forward with what this board would move forward doing. So I'm sorry that it doesn't go along with what your agenda is right now, but this is what we want, what I want to see happen. I want
Let me explain
to
something.
have an updated,
My job is meeting the goals of the board, okay? You're supposed to create goals as a board of things you'd like to accomplish. That's
But
what
there
you're
haven't been
supposed
any
to do.
objectives to goals that you
And
put
from,
forth.
I was speaking again. Let me finish, okay? You're supposed to set goals, so the 7 of you should be sitting down and saying, what are the things that we'd like to accomplish? Identifying what those things are, so that solutions can be brought forward for you. That's actually the process of what a board does, okay? What you're doing here now, again, having never sat and reviewed any of this information, you're making decisions, okay? You're moving things.
We're not making
I-
decisions.
I'm speaking, please, okay? This is something that, again, I think it's really concerning that, again, without any of this information, having not reviewed all of these items, okay, you're moving us down a path, okay, that is, again, I would caution you on the ethical conduct here.
oh,
And I think you'll
Mr.
get an
Capone, I'm
information on that
sorry.
on the 25th.
Mr. Capone, thank you for your comments. We do have the motion on the floor, and the motion has been seconded to provide the detailed plan to withdraw the lawsuits for, for the Orzio firm.
It doesn't sit well with me. You guys can do whatever you want, and that's fine. But as a person, I have a hard time understanding how you want, if you want to ask for that plan after you have the information, I'm all for it. But I don't see how you can ask for a plan before you have the information.
Once the information is presented back.
I guess my question is, what's the harm in waiting 2 weeks? So you get the information, and then you say, okay, this information is what I thought it was.
Because I want to be able to compare the two. I want to be able to look at the plan, that the current status of what those lawsuits is in place. And I also want to be able to look at the same time, so that when this, because he needs to come to the executive session, once this is prepared, he needs to bring it here, present it to the board in person and or by Zoom. So we need to have accessibility to Mr. Orzio. The plan is in front of us. The recommendation of the detailed plan to withdraw would be in front of us, and we could have a full discussion at that time.
Typically how it works, we would know how much that's gonna cost, and then how much it would cost for the other plan.
No one was concerned when it was $40,000 for feasibility
I'm not
study,
going
and that was
backwards.
presented. We don't, believe me, this board has gone backwards for the past 3 years in the sense of discussion, and Mr. Capone is constantly going backwards to the point where he calls out school
I'm
board
talking
members.
you and me, so
I
I get
understand.
information so I can understand what you're trying to do. That's all I'm trying to do.
And I've explained what I'm trying to do. The problem is you guys are,
This is me and you, I'm asking a question, so what I'm saying is, typically we would say, this is gonna cost this much, this is gonna cost this much. All that I'm asking is, what's the reason behind it, you have to have a goal that, or that you want to have.
I've explained that 3 times, because I am making these motions so that we can have the updated status in front of us. And I split them apart so that Mr. Plotski's request, updated status of these lawsuits, as well as the
I understand
plan that it would
I'm
need to
asking
be withdrawn. So that is why I want them both in front of me at the same time as a board member, city
We don't
user,
have
and
a cost.
everybody.
We don't have a cost of how much this is gonna cost, whether. it
I would
costs-
imagine that when Mr. Capone or whoever you guys hired, that you took into consideration what his hourly rate is, and the cost of what has been taking place already with these lawsuits doesn't seem to matter to you, but now because I'm
Well, it
requesting
does
a,
matter to me.
You're speaking out of turn since you've never been part of this board before, so you cannot speak about what's been happening.
I've been paying attention, Mr. Capone. I read the minutes, I've been paying
But on
attention.
legal
and
issues that you are not privy to, you don't have that information.
No, we know.
That's why we're
So that's
asking.
why,
That's what we're asking.
That's why we're asking for a status and a plan to withdraw so that we can evaluate them.
status.
You read a newspaper article that says a lawsuit's been filed. Hello? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. And now,
But
but
what
you
we're
don't have
asking
the
for is,
correct
what is the
information.
status of that suit? Period.
I'm all for that. Denise, you're not listening to me. I'm all for that. I'm
if you
asking
wanna
about the
withdraw
second part.
If
All right.
we want to withdraw it, we want to have that information in front of us too. What's the big deal?
Because it seems like you're already
No, we're
prepared
not.
for
We're
the
asking for information.
Can I make a suggestion?
His word said it. He said it, not us. Mr. Capone said that we already made up our minds and had a proposal.
That's
We're not what was said.
That's
We're
how it
asking
appears in
you-
your
That is what
application.
You were saying that to us, and it's inappropriate for you to project that onto any board member here. There's no predetermination right going on here. I read exactly what I have written down. We are looking to get the status update, and we are looking for a plan to withdraw. No other statement was made, no other statement was indicated. It was implied by Mr. Capone. That is different than what I said. Gail, I'm sorry, you have the floor because you did just ask to speak.
What if we amend it to just say the list of possible outcomes? And you can add your, including withdrawal.
I don't have a problem with that.
What's the,
There's outcomes, just use the word alternatives instead of outcomes. Sorry, that's what I
So that way we get a list of everything, like you're saying, we get the, how we're gonna win, we're gonna lose, we're gonna beat, whatever, and then you also have your escape hatch.
A detailed plan to include outcomes. To include outcomes. That may allow withdrawal of the lawsuits. So I need, an amendment on the motion.
You made the motion.
Okay, pardon me.
Oh, that's okay. Just-
I realize I split them out. So I'd like to amend the motion that the law firm of Porzio to provide a detailed plan to provide a detailed plan of the potential outcomes that may include withdrawal of these lawsuits and maintain a full sub receipt with High Point Regional High School. And whoever did the second, do you agree to amend it?
Yes.
Donna, do you need me to repeat it? Okay, thank you.
so
Any further discussion?
just to clarify, we're just asking for the status and we're asking for possible outcomes. So if we decide to do this, what happens if we decide to do nothing?
Correct.
Just asking for a plan.
Exactly.
Oh, no, she said,
No,
she's
we're-
asking for a point.
Yeah, so that's what we're just asking for a plan.
Okay, fine.
So like, in front of us, to look at all of our options.
We're not making any decisions, and we don't have the information.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Wolfer?
Yes.
Mr. Brownwell?
Yes.
Mr. Brislet?
Yes.
Mr. Camucci?
No.
Ms. Christmas?
Yes.
Ms. Wolski?
Yes.
Ms. McLaughlin?
No.
I'm sorry, was that recorded as a no? Thank you. Does anybody have any other business?
I think we're trying to do this.
No problem. Motion-
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? 3-minute recess.
It'll probably be better and more for the fall. I'm sure Mark will make it. We need to open this case up.
I'm just, oh, wait, open
You want to close it?
Oh, no. I'm just kidding. Who else is the first one? Oh, I love your dog. Yeah, that's right. Oh, my God. That was pretty. Yeah, she got it, okay. She got it, and I just take it, just go. Yeah, we'll figure it out. That's where she wants to go, yes. Figure out that's it. Yeah, have we get a full one, please.
I'll second.
All in favor? Are opposed? We're meeting back in session. We're ready to move on to public session, public comment. Public comment is invited on all matters pertaining to the school district. All participants shall be permitted 4 minutes to speak and shall state their name, place of residence, and group affiliation if appropriate. Board meetings are a meeting of the board conducted in public, not a meeting of the public conducted in the presence of the board. The board uses the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizens' concerns. Please be aware that not all issues brought to a board meeting will be resolved this evening. Rather, the board will, in appropriate cases, delegate authority to investigate the matter to the superintendent or his designee. Please let the record reflect that the board does not endorse your comments, nor the board or BOE will be held liable for comments you make without a staff member or other person, which the staff member or other person may consider defamatory or libelous, as that individual retains all rights to pursue any legal remedies against you. Motion to open public comment.
Motion.
7:15. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? opposed? Open for public comment. Hello? Can you hear me? Sounds very muffled, but.
Okay, so you probably can't see me smiling, so the mask on, but I'm so ecstatic to be looking at this board tonight. I want to publicly congratulate both Barbara and Denise. It sure is a good thing you have such astute trainers around you to bring you up to speed. I have no doubt that you will far exceed the public's expectations. The voice of the people, how absolutely powerful we all are when we come together. Tim, I'm going to direct this next statement directly to you, and is in reference to your public dismissal of the High Point letter coordination facilitated by a small group of people in Montague. You even minimized the outcome, stating that it was only a nominal amount of original letters. But I understand that the most recent lawsuit referenced that High Point was part of this process. I want to be crystal clear to you, Tim. This was me, Andre Campbell, Ellie Murphy, Barbara Holstein, Denise Bogle, Tasha DeGeorge, Christine Beazle, and Stephanie Guida. This was Montague 2000 and Parents for Change. Do not get it twisted. We did this. We impacted last year's elections and the landslide of this election. For the next election, Jen, you have a better chance of seeing the Antichrist run across the room before you ever have a seat on the board of election in this town. Tim, you came into this town, you made promises to the board to get us back to Port Jervis, and you did not listen to the people. While the poor decision pushed me, and is the reason I am now your adversary, I knew there are many other instances where you did not act as steward to our children. This may be a town similar to Mayberry, but your arrogance and the dumb people you surround yourself with did not prepare you for the outcome of when these intellectual and strategic minds that sit in front of you tonight come together. Our motto was principle over personality, because quite frankly, some of us don't even like each other personally. But we acted as leaders, we came together, we put a plan together months ago, Tim, and we executed that plan. This is the result of the power of the people of Montague, and I'm honored to have worked with these women. You are as good as the people you surround yourself with. You may want to heed that advice for any future endeavors, because your tribe leaves a lot to be desired. Now to the board. I'm requesting to immediately recall the most recent lawsuit and the request to go back to Port Jervis. I want to see us reduce costs in this district and begin in alignment with High Point. I don't know why anyone is surprised about the motion to rescind this lawsuit. Maybe you're just surprised on day one with the new board they are meeting the voters' expectations. We fought too hard to get to High Point to allow some newcomers come to Montague and try to destroy it. It will not happen. Thank you for doing this. And last but not least, when are our kids going to come back to school? This has to be a top priority for this board. The administration has to be laser focused on developing a plan for the children. Would appreciate having community involvement for the state's recommendation, which apparently you missed last time. We need transparency and a clear, concise plan. Good luck, guys.
Andre Campbell, 111 Armstrong Road. I just want to congratulate you, Barb, and you, Denise. Good luck. Further, it is apparent by the overwhelming vote in November that this town is no longer interested in our kids going to Port Jervis. We can now move on and hopefully get important work done and return to some semblance of sanity so the children of this town can get the education they so deserve.
I don't actually have anything.
Name and address, please.
Stephanie Guida, Montague. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I did want to congratulate the two new board members. I wanted to thank those on this board who do have children, because I know that the time you guys have put in is time consuming. We do have two ladies on this board who have 3 children. I recognize that this is not always easy for you. I wanted to also mention that while I understand Mr. Plotsky might not be thrilled right now, I do feel like his knowledge and his patience with our new board members
is something that I appreciate and hope will continue, because he is the only person in the room who is a lawyer. So I do appreciate that, and I hope that his professionalism continues. I guess there's two things that are like business related that I wanted to mention. I did a lot of research, and you can mock me for that, that's okay, but from what I'm being told, the whole spinning you've been doing about the USDA versus the free and reduced lunch is really kind of nonsense, and it seems like it might have been meant to pit community members against each other. There is nothing that prevents you from delivering food under the USDA grab zone. Other districts are doing it. If families can't pick it up, they email the school helps them. Nothing has changed here since March when you were delivering meals. You still haven't answered Danielle Chrisman's questions about how many students were receiving delivery. So I'd like the board to go ahead and find that out as soon as possible. I don't think it's something that Mr. Andriak can't handle. My understanding is that quite a few staff members have expressed interest in doing more and helping right now, especially when many of them aren't here working. I would encourage you to take advantage of that and let those staff members help, because they don't want to look bad for not helping. And there's nothing wrong with helping. So, and on another note, Mr. Plotsky, you recently expressed frustration that the county had called you about the reopening plan and felt as if the board had somehow maybe done something wrong. I assure you, the board has done nothing wrong here. I spoke to Neil Kramer several times since August. I was on my district's reopening committee. Parents are supposed to be there. It was supposed to be July and August, constant meetings. Mr. Capone didn't even show up to the county meetings. I'm concerned that Mr. Kramer said to me that his response to Mr. Capone has been, "What have you been doing since July?" The roadmap plan came out on June 26th, and it had the HVAC recommendations. They were just recommendations, not requirements. Nobody has to have a MERV 13 filter. Frankly, it seems to me as if you've been dragging your feet and avoiding actually thinking about how to open the schools safely. Distancing the kids, 10 to 12 kids in a classroom, desks 6 feet apart, has worked all over the districts in all counties in the state. My district never even had to go remote. The only reason we did was to be safe after Christmas. I believe that the virus is scary and dangerous and nobody wants to get it. But masks, social distancing are working in other districts. So my thoughts are this board needs to get up and running quick. Figure out what the HVAC nonsense supposedly is, because we still haven't even seen a report. And you told us after the OSHA violations that the school was given a clean bill of health. So I think we have some things to clear up here, and hopefully we can get our kids back in school at least a couple of days a week, because there's nothing wrong with a cohort schedule.
Is there any further public comment? Motion to close public comment?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so most, public comment is closed. I'll just take a moment to respond. We would definitely be looking at continuing looking at the food delivery options. We know that we're, going to have to start planning and making sure that we have that. That's something that we'll be discussing with Mr. Capone, myself will. As well as the reopening plan is on my list of things that need to be discussed. And then presented to the public as well. So just to note that those are items that a couple public members mentioned, and they are on my list of items that need to be addressed with Mr. Pincone. You got it, Tom? Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second,
I'll second. Or that was a motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Time of adjournment is 7:25. So it's my call.